Welcome back. A substantive issue that should be picked up by the opposition, nurses, and the problem that we have with 17,000 of them threatening to actually quit next week, and our state hospitals may not even have any nurses next week. Tom, you're close to this issue.
I'm closest to nurses.
Yeah, you're close to this.
My mother's a nurse. Yeah. My mother's a nurse. And surprisingly, I just found out 2 days ago, my 83-year-old mother is actually a part of this protest. Right. So I have good. So again, a little background. So we have two kinds of healthcare in Thailand: private and public. Okay, the state runs. These are nurses who work for the state-run hospitals. Okay, total around 17 to 20,000 nurses on real-time, part-time. What they're seeking is for them to have what they call civil service packages.
These are the part-time nurses, right?
No, these are all nurses.
Full-time.
Again, altogether, there's full-time and part-time.
Okay.
They are not
employed by the government.
They're in essence, they're outsourced by the government.
Okay.
To come and work at the state-run hospitals. What these nurses are asking the government to do is to go ahead and make them full-time civil service employees. Surprisingly, they're not asking for increase in monthly pay. They're asking for long-term security.
Job stability.
Yeah, because if you're a civil servant, you can't get fired, blah, 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 right? Their big issue is, you know, it's been promised for the last 8 years that these 17,000 or so nurses would be, you know, assigned as civil servants. It has not been done. And the government basically saying that there's no budget to do this.
Okay.
By the way, the total amount of money, if you were to do this, if the government were to actually agree to this, over a lifetime of these nurses, these 17,000 or so nurses, would be about 5 billion baht. Right? So it's not a lot of money.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Right. So these nurses are threatening to strike. These nurses are threatening to stop, you know, patient care. This is a real issue.
And that's a critical issue.
This is a real issue. I mean, if 17,000 nurses decide to walk off their jobs in the next week or two, you're going to have, I mean, healthcare in Thailand is bad enough.
It's not, yeah. Imagine. We don't have enough nurses now. You know, we have 5.9 nurses per 1,000
compared to
people.
Malaysia, compared to Singapore, compared to
We're
the US, compared to the Philippines, you know, our nurses to patient ratio is one of the lowest.
With AAC coming up, right?
Yeah,
These nurses could be cross-border, they could be moving. If they don't get the benefits, stability, or the financial income that they seek here, they will be moving to work somewhere else.
We do need them. Yeah. And I think job security is an issue for them. What their terms and conditions are is an issue. But I think there's also a wider issue. And the wider issue is that in Thailand we have two sets of hospital systems. The medical system in Thailand, if you can afford it, and it's not expensive, is very good. If you actually go into the government public health care, which is free, it leaves a lot to be desired. It follows every other government health scheme system in the world. But the point that I'm really wanting to make is that a lot of the nurses that cannot get jobs in the private hospitals, where they would double their money, are saying, okay, I'm happy to stay in the government one, but I need to get security, as Tom said. But nobody takes up their cause.
Now this, Tom, you mentioned about there's not being enough budget. Now, is this because is this anything related to the 30 baht medical care?
No, guys,
could it be related
in a weird
to
way, you know? And again, bless my mother's heart, being 83 and taking up this issue, right? What I told my mom was, in reality, by the way, I'm not in favor of assigning people job security and civil service status, because I think it creates complacency and stupidity, right? I actually sat down with the leaders of this group, right? Whether they're young nurses, the head of the concern is actually a male nurse. He's only 27 years old, right? Sat down with me and I said, look, what are you really asking for? Because if you ask me personally as a businessman, giving you job security over 50 years, I don't think it's the way that countries should go. I think being in the civil servant doesn't improve the quality of your service, right? I think that these nurses also have to understand, right, that, should you ask for more money, incentives if you do jobs well. I don't think there's any jobs in the world now that are secure, is there? You know, you mean to have job security for the rest of your life is just not a reality.
Public service. I mean, public service around the world gives you a guarantee.
But I can understand what they're asking for. They're just asking for fairness. If other people are getting civil service status, why can't these nurses do? This is going to be a big issue, and the government now has come out and says, look, we'll come back to you in 3 months. Well, my concern is that in 3 months you might not have any nurses left. So what can we as a public do about this? Let's keep an eye on this. Obviously, I have to support. You know, my mom is a nurse; she's part of this. I agree with Val. You know, the healthcare system in our state hospitals are not the best in the world right now. And if you lose more nurses, it's just going to actually get worse, I guess, you know.
Tom, the bigger problem, I think, is this is one issue, the nurses, but it goes beyond that. You hear somebody like Rajwati Hospital who's saying, you know what, we've had the problem with nurses for 20 years. We don't have enough anaesthetists at the hospitals. We don't have enough physicians. We can't actually operate on the people
Surgeries
when we
are
should
delayed
operate.
and so
Surgeries
on.
are delayed.
Yeah.
The reality is that with the private hospitals coming in here, that a number of the doctors have gone to the private sector, as happens, again, around the world. What we're not doing is filling the gap. We're not actually looking at the overall. So whilst I sympathise with the nurses, whilst I don't agree that they should be given a security for life job, I think the bigger issue is let's look at what's going wrong with our overall system. Look at the numbers of people that want to go into nursing now. The numbers are less. Look at the number of doctors that are wanting to go and actually do 6, 8 years, then go in at a very low salary, work 24 hours a day, don't even have rooms sometimes for the people in the hospitals immediately after they've had the operation. This is the big issue. Look, front page stuff is great news for the nurses, but in reality, the whole health system for the public sector needs to be addressed. That's the big issue.
Yeah,
nurses are part of it.
I've been to some of these public hospitals.
Shocking.
You know, you have patients lying on a stretcher in the corridor because
Straight
the
from
rooms
operating
are not
theatre.
available. Yeah, the rooms are not available.
I can tell you a
or you
particular
have to
case.
join a queue and wait for 3 days or 5 days, or even pay money to get ahead of the queue to get yourself operated. So there's a big issue.
The nurse issue is one thing.
not just the nurses.
Let's go beyond that.
Let's look at it. So again, the issue is, you know, in a little less than 10 days, nurses can be striking all over the country.
Yeah, and they'll just make the whole issue worse.
So again, I go back to the Democrats. Here's a substantive issue.
Yeah.
But hang on, the same problem occurred when the
20 years.
Democrats were in power.
And it's always
it's
a problem.
Everybody, you know?
This problem has been going on for 8 years,
Sure.
so I'm going 9 years. Again, but I think that, you know, this is an issue that
needs to be addressed properly.
Sure it does.
And don't wait 3 months on this, guys. Address it now.
Do it now.
Move on to our next topic, futsal. We are hosting this FIFA World Futsal competition from the 1st to the 8th of November.
One, I personally hate the sport because I never understood why you want to play basketball with your foot, because that's literally what it is. But then again, we should be proud, right? We are going to be the host of the World Championship.
Yeah.
We've known about this for the last 4 years, and now we can't seem to finish the darn stadium to actually host it.
What happened with the Asian Games a few years ago? The same thing. But in actual fact, we got it finished.
Yep.
Why can't they get this going?
You know
really?
something? This is so embarrassing to our country.
It will be a
One,
biggest embarrassment.
to be the host of this thing.
A world
By the way,
event.
the BMA is responsible for this. You know, if you're going to judge the 4 years of Kun Sukumpan, right, with anything else, look, judge it with this. He's had number of years to figure this one out, right? One, it's been done horribly in terms of promoting it, because you're right. No one knows about it. Nobody cares. We're spending a ton amount of money on this. But the saddest part is we've had a year to build an opening stadium, which now will not be what? Used for the opening.
Exactly.
And
the reason
1.5 billion baht just went down the drain to build a stadium that will never be used. It's so sad.
And then to say, oh, you know, the reason that it's delayed
not
is
going to
because
be
of the
used for the
flooding.
opening.
No, it may not be used
It
at all
may be
because
used
on
at
this,
all.
because as of right now, FIFA has not accepted
That's right, yeah.
that the stadium is finished. Hopefully, by the time this airs, FIFA will say, okay, it can be used for some games, but there is actually a danger that this entire stadium will never. This is a sad statement on our country. One, you're throwing a party for the world, and you can't even get your own house ready. And by the way, nobody knows about it. It's not the federal government that helps us. And by the way, the federal government did try to come and help, and BMA says, boy, no, it's my party. I will handle it, right? And this goes back to people not having a conversation and egos taking over, not for the benefit of the country, but for the benefit to themselves. Somebody actually came up to me 3 days ago and says, you know, Tom, when you were actually in charge of hosting Miss Universe here in Thailand,
you did a
6 years ago, because the whole world knew about
it,
right? And I had 8 weeks. No, literally 9 weeks to put that together.
Not 4
But
years.
hang on, Tom.
countries.
Hang on, Tom. There's a big difference between a futsal event and
No,
Miss Universe.
what's the difference?
No, there is a difference. But even having said that, you had a focus, you got everybody involved, you told us all what was going on a regular basis.
Yeah,
The
PR, promotions, marketing,
There's been no
BMA
PR.
didn't do it.
There's been no promotion about when we won it, there was that much in the paper when you go back. The reality is that even if we're so close to it now that we can't get it done from the BMA side, let's get us all together to actually start getting out there and telling people about it. We just make our country look so bad by being so inefficient in what we do.
Yep.
It's just a nightmare, quite frankly, and again, the waste of money. Now they're saying that it's going to be 3 stadiums used. There's going to be the Hallmark Stadium. And
so why did they even build this one?
So why build it anyway? And one in Nakhon Ratchasima. But see, the reality is there's going to be more money, more corruption now, because they have to get transportation to 3 different locations. One in Bangkok, one in Nakhon Ratchasima, which is for you people not watching, don't know, 4 hours away.
Corruption!
Is that what it's all about? You talk to Tom.
I know it's going to be a big embarrassment now. You know, if this ends up not running in that stadium, going somewhere else, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. What can we do to help?
Fire the governor.
We go for a break now. See you later.